The metal doors slid open with a soft hiss as Major Samuel Winters straightened his uniform one last time. This was humanity's moment, and he couldn't afford to make mistakes. The hallway before him stretched toward the Galactic Council chambers, its walls shimmering with a pearlescent glow that no human material could match. "Remember your training, Sam," he whispered to himself, taking the first step forward. Behind him, the Earth transport ship waited in the docking bay, its crew watching through communication screens. They had traveled for 3 weeks to reach this massive space station positioned at the junction of 6 different alien territories. For centuries, humanity had wondered if they were alone in the universe. In the last decade, they had learned the answer was a definite no. Today marked their official introduction to galactic society. The journey down the hallway felt longer than the trip from Earth. 2 tall, blue-skinned Illuminati guards escorted him, their graceful movements making his human gait seem clumsy by comparison. Neither spoke to him, their 4-pupiled eyes occasionally glancing his way with what he interpreted as mild curiosity or perhaps disgust. A final set of doors opened, revealing a circular chamber with a ceiling that appeared to display the actual stars beyond the station. In the center, a raised platform held 6 ornate seats arranged in a half-circle. 5 were already occupied by beings so different from each other that Winters momentarily forgot his diplomatic training. The Zoran representative was a tall, spindly creature with gray skin and an oversized head, housing 3 visible brains behind a transparent skull casing. Beside it sat the Elunari ambassador, similar to his guards but adorned with flowing garments that seemed to float around her willowy frame. The Kraxan delegate resembled a heavily armored reptile standing upright, eyes constantly scanning the room as if expecting an attack. Next to him, the ancient Voidwalker barely seemed physical at all, a swirling mass of dark energy roughly forming a humanoid shape. The Nivari representative looked almost insectoid, with multiple limbs continuously making small adjustments to the mechanical devices integrated into its exoskeleton. The 6th seat remained empty until a door on the far side opened. A small, fox-like being with iridescent fur entered quickly and took the final position. This, Winters recalled from his briefings, was the Quillian representative. "The human envoy has arrived," announced a computerized voice from nowhere in particular. "Major Samuel Winters of Earth." Winters stepped forward to the small platform directly facing the council. He had practiced this moment hundreds of times back home. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice steady, despite his pounding heart. "I bring greetings from Earth and the United Nations of Humanity. We are honored by this invitation and eager to join the interstellar community." The Zoran representative tilted its massive head. When it spoke, its voice sounded mechanical, likely translated through the same system that allowed Winters to understand them. "The Council acknowledges Earth's representative. We have observed your species for some time. Your recent development of functional faster-than-light travel has qualified you for consideration as potential associates." Winters nodded respectfully. "We're grateful for the opportunity to—" "Before formalities continue," interrupted the D. Zoran, "the Council has prepared an assessment of human civilization that we believe would be beneficial to share." The central space between them shimmered as a 3-dimensional projection appeared. Winters recognized Earth rotating slowly. The species designation human has existed in recognizable form for approximately 300,000 years, began the Zoran. Yet technological civilization emerged only 12,000 years ago, remarkably slow development compared to Council standards. The projection changed to show scenes from human history, ancient wars, environmental destruction, political conflicts. Winters maintained his diplomatic smile, though he felt it straining. "We find particular interest in humanity's propensity for intraspecies conflict," continued the Zoran. "No other Council race has engaged in as many internal wars during their development phase." The Kraxan representative made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. "Their weapons are laughable. They still use chemical propellants and physical projectiles for much of their arsenal. Their art forms are derivative of natural patterns," added the Elunari delegate, her melodic voice somehow making the criticism worse. though we acknowledge some primitive creativity in their musical vibrations. The Voidwalker's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. They have barely begun to understand quantum mechanics. Their grasp of dimensional physics is that of children. Winters felt heat rising in his face but maintained his composure. This wasn't at all what he had expected. The briefings had suggested a formal welcome, not whatever this was. "If I may," he said, trying to interject, "humanity acknowledges our developmental challenges. However, we've made remarkable progress in the past century alone. Our adaptability is our greatest strength." The Naivari representative clicked something that sounded dismissive. "Your environmental modifications require external tools. Inefficient. Wasteful. Our analysis concludes," said the Zoran, "that humans represent a species of moderate potential but significant risk factors. Your tendency toward violence, resource consumption, and territorial expansion raises concerns." The Quillian representative, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward slightly. "What of their communication abilities? Their cultural exchange systems?" "Primitive but functional," replied the Zoran. "They still rely heavily on verbal transmission rather than direct neural exchange." Winters cleared his throat. "With respect, Council members, every species has its own evolutionary path. Humans may lack certain advantages you possess, but we offer unique perspectives. Our diversity of thought has led to innovative solutions that we are familiar with. The human tendency to overestimate their capabilities," the Kraxan cut in. "Your species barely survived its own nuclear weapons development." For the next 30 minutes, Winters stood as the Council methodically dissected human civilization, pointing out flaws, failures, and limitations. His carefully prepared speech about human achievements and potential contributions lay unused in his memory, as he defended against increasingly condescending observations. Finally, the formal assessment concluded. The Zoran representative looked to its colleagues, who each made gestures that Winters couldn't interpret. "The Council has reached a preliminary decision," announced the Zoran. "Humanity will be granted observational status within galactic affairs. Full membership consideration is deferred for 1 standard century, at which point reassessment will occur." Winters tried not to show his disappointment. Observational status was the lowest possible recognition, essentially allowing humans to watch but not participate in galactic governance or trade. "The Council session is concluded," declared the computerized voice. As the representatives began to depart, Winters stood alone on the platform, the weight of Earth's hopes heavy on his shoulders. The mission had been a diplomatic failure. A small figure approached as the chamber emptied. It was a Quillian, younger and smaller than their Council representative. "Major Winters," she said softly. "I am Cirilla, junior diplomat to the Quillian delegation. Please do not judge the Council too harshly. What you witnessed was unusual." Winters looked down at the fox-like alien. "Unusual?" It felt like a carefully planned humiliation. Cirilla's ears twitched nervously. "It was, but not for the reasons you might think." She glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "Several Council races fear humanity's potential. Your species advanced from simple tools to space travel in 10,000 years. Most took 5 times longer." "Fear?" Winters asked, surprised. "That doesn't make sense." "Fear rarely does," replied Cirilla. "Remember, Major, those who mock most loudly often fear most deeply." Before Winters could respond, she hurried away, leaving him alone with thoughts of how to explain all this to Earth. 3 months had passed since Major Samuel Winters' disastrous first meeting with the Galactic Council. He now occupied a small office in the lower levels of the massive space station. Observational status meant exactly that. He could observe Council proceedings from a distance but rarely speak. Earth had accepted the terms with diplomatic grace, but everyone back home felt the sting of the insult. Winters stared out his viewport at the endless stars. He had hoped to be negotiating trade agreements and cultural exchanges by now. Instead, he spent most days filing reports that nobody seemed to read. His communication panel chimed with an urgent tone he had never heard before. He pressed the receiver. "Major Winters here." The face of Lieutenant Carol Murphy appeared on the screen. Her usual calm expression was replaced with visible concern. "Major, we have a situation. A large number of unidentified vessels have appeared at the edge of our solar system. They match no known design patterns in the Council database." Winters straightened in his chair. "How many is large?" "Over 300 ships, sir. They're holding position just beyond Pluto's orbit. Have they made contact?" Murphy shook her head. "No, sir. They're not responding to any communication attempts." "What does Earth Command want us to do?" "They want you to inform the Council immediately. These ships are massive, Major. Our scans suggest each one is nearly the size of Manhattan." Winters nodded. "I'll head to the Council chamber right away. Keep me updated." "Yes, sir. Murphy out." Winters hurried through the station corridors, passing aliens who barely acknowledged his existence. He had learned to navigate the complex political hierarchies of the station, but still faced barriers at every turn. Today, however, he wouldn't be stopped. He reached the outer office of the Zoran representative, who currently held the position of Council First Speaker. "I need to see First Speaker Tazan immediately," Winters told the aide, a younger Zoran whose name he couldn't recall. "The First Speaker is preparing for the afternoon session. No appointments are available." "This is an emergency situation concerning potential first contact with an unknown species," Winters insisted. "It falls under Section 17 of the Council Charter regarding emerging interstellar threats." The aide's three brains visibly pulsed behind its transparent skull. Winters had spent enough time studying Council regulations to know which buttons to push. "Wait here," the aide finally said, disappearing through an inner door. 5 minutes later, Winters stood before the full Council, which had assembled with unusual speed. He explained the situation concisely, showing the visual data Murphy had sent. The Zoran First Speaker studied the images with what passed for mild interest. "These vessels do not match any known hostile species in our records," Tazan said finally. "Most likely a trading coalition from the outer systems, or perhaps a scientific expedition." The Kraxan representative leaned forward. "Their formation suggests military organization. We should investigate." "Earth has observational status only," reminded the Elunari delegate. "Their concerns do not warrant emergency protocols." Winters felt his frustration rising. With respect, Council members, over 300 unknown vessels appearing without warning near an inhabited world should concern everyone. "Humans are remarkably prone to overreaction," said the Naivari representative. "Their entertainment media is filled with fictional invasions." The Council chamber's central alert system interrupted the discussion, its lights pulsing an ominous purple. The Quillian representative's ears flattened against her head, a sign of alarm, Winters had learned. "Multiple unknown vessel clusters have been detected throughout Council space," announced the station's artificial intelligence. "Similar ships have appeared near the Elunari homeworld, the Kraxan defense perimeter, and 3 major Zoran research outposts." The chamber erupted in concerned voices. The Voidwalker representative's dark energy form rippled with what Winters had come to recognize as agitation. "Display all locations," ordered First Speaker Tazan. The central holographic projection showed a map of Council space with red markers indicating the mysterious fleet positions. They formed a clear pattern, a net closing around the core worlds of all Council species. "These cannot be coincidental arrivals," said the Kraxan representative, all traces of earlier dismissiveness gone. As they watched, a new alert sounded. The station's AI spoke again. "Incoming transmission on all frequencies originating from the unknown vessels." "Display," ordered Tazan. The holographic display changed to show a being unlike any Winters had seen before. It appeared composed of shifting black segments like an insect's exoskeleton but constantly moving. Where a face should be, there were only sensors or weapons. Winters couldn't tell which. When it spoke, the universal translator struggled before producing words. "We are the harvesters. Your resources have been selected for collection. Resistance will increase collection intensity. Surrender will allow for minimal living specimen preservation. You have one planetary rotation to respond. The transmission ended abruptly. The council chamber remained silent for several seconds. They've sent the same message to every world near their fleets, reported an aide who rushed in. Several outer colonies have already gone silent. First speaker Tizan's voice remained steady, but Winters noticed a tremor in its spindly limbs. The council must formulate a unified response. The Kraxan fleet stands ready to defend our territories, declared their representative, pounding a scaled fist on the table. Violence will only provoke them, countered the Elunari delegate. We should attempt negotiation. Study first, act later, insisted the Zoran first speaker. We need more information about their capabilities. The ancient texts speak of similar entities, the Voidwalker representative's ethereal voice interjected. World consumers from the void between galaxies. The Nivari representative's mechanical appendages clicked rapidly. We should begin constructing defense systems immediately. Or perhaps concealment is wiser, suggested the Quillian representative. Our stealth technology could. Winters watched as the Council, so unified in their earlier condescension toward humanity, fractured into competing priorities. Each species retreated to their natural tendencies. The Kraxan to fight, the Elunari to communicate, the Zorans to analyze, the Voidwalkers to consult ancient wisdom, the Nivari to build, and the Quillians to hide. His communication panel chimed. Again. Lieutenant Murphy's face appeared even more concerned than before. Major, Earth Defense Command has intercepted communications indicating several council races are recalling their defense forces to protect their homeworlds. They're abandoning the unified defense perimeter, Winters realized aloud. Yes, sir. And Earth is outside that perimeter. We'll be facing these harvesters alone. The Quillian representative overheard this and approached Winters. Is this true? Your world has no significant defenses against such a threat? We've been developing our military capabilities, but nothing that could stand against what we just saw, Winters admitted. Earth would need allies. The Quillian's ears drooped. I fear each council race is thinking only of itself now. Winters looked around at the chaos of the council chamber. Advanced species arguing while a common threat approached. Something Lieutenant Murphy had once said during a training exercise came back to him. Divided we're targets, united we're a force. He turned back to Murphy on the screen. Lieutenant, contact Earth. Tell them to prepare, but not just militarily. I want our diplomats, scientists, engineers, everyone working on this. And get me everything we have on coalition building in crisis situations. Sir? Murphy looked confused. Historical examples, Lieutenant. From the ancient Greeks against Persia to the Allied forces in World War II. Times when different groups set aside their differences to face a common enemy. Understanding dawned on Murphy's face. You're going to try to unite the council. Winters nodded, watching the bickering representatives. They mocked us for our history of conflicts. Maybe it's time to show them what humanity learned from all that fighting. And if they won't listen? Murphy asked. Then Earth stands alone, Winters said grimly. But I don't think it will come to that. Because if there's one thing these harvesters just did, it was to give all of us something we desperately needed. What's that, sir? Winters' expression hardened with determination. A common enemy. The council chamber had descended into chaos. Representatives argued loudly over defensive strategies while aides rushed about with urgent messages. No one seemed to notice Major Winters as he stood to the side, watching the scene unfold. Unity these advanced species had shown when mocking humanity had completely vanished in the face of actual danger. Winters had spent the last hour reviewing Earth's military history on his datapad. Lieutenant Murphy had sent him everything he requested. Ancient battle tactics, coalition formations, and diplomatic strategies used during Earth's greatest conflicts. One thing became clear. Successful alliances against overwhelming forces required a unifying leader and a clear shared strategy. A message from Murphy flashed on his screen. Harvester ships advancing toward inner solar system. Earth defense. Mobilizing, but estimates suggest our forces will last less than 1 day against their technology. Updates from other worlds? Winters looked up at the central display in the council chamber. Similar reports were coming in from across council space. The harvesters were moving simultaneously on multiple fronts. The council races were responding exactly as he predicted, each protecting their own territories, splitting their forces, and ultimately weakening the overall defense. He thought of Earth, of ordinary people going about their lives, unaware that alien ships were approaching with the intention to strip their world of resources. Those people were looking to their leaders for protection, and their leaders were looking to him, their representative to the galactic community. Something hardened in Winter's resolve. He had been trained as a soldier before becoming a diplomat. Sometimes action spoke louder than words. He walked purposefully to the center of the chamber and reached for the master control panel of the communication system. A Zoran aide moved to stop him. "You lack authorization for this system," the aide said. "Emergency protocol override," Winters replied, entering a code he had memorized from the council charter. Section 31, paragraph 7. In times of multi-system threat, any representative may address the full council. The aide hesitated, then stepped back. Winters accessed the controls, activating not only the chamber's communication system, but the network that connected to all council worlds. What he was about to do would either unite them or end his diplomatic career instantly. He pressed the broadcast button. His face appeared on displays throughout the chamber and on countless worlds beyond. "This is Major Samuel Winters of Earth," he began, his voice steady. "I address not only the council, but all citizens of council space. The threat we face today knows no borders. The harvesters do not care which world you call home or what species you belong to. They see us all as resources to be consumed." He paused, glancing around the chamber. The arguments had stopped as all eyes turned to him. "You have judged humanity as primitive because of our history of conflict. Yes, we have fought wars. Yes, we have divided ourselves by nations, by beliefs, by resources. But through these struggles we learned something valuable. Something I believe you need right now." Winters brought up historical images on the display. Human armies throughout history standing together despite their differences. We learned that when faced with extinction, old enemies can become allies. When the threat is great enough, borders become meaningless. Humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our physical abilities. It's our capacity to unite against impossible odds. The Kraxan representative stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "What gives you the right to address the council this way? Earth has only observational status." "With respect, Ambassador, we're beyond status and protocol now," Winters replied. "While we debate hierarchy, the harvesters move closer to all our worlds." He switched the display to show the current positions of the harvester fleets, then overlaid the scattered defensive positions of the council races. "Look at this. Each of you is defending your territory independently. The harvesters will pick us off one by one." The Elunari delegate tilted her head. "What would you suggest, human?" Winters brought up a new tactical display, one that Lieutenant Murphy had helped him create. It showed a unified defensive strategy, combining the forces of all council races. AUA, joint command structure, unified communications, coordinated attacks. Each species contributes what they do best. He pointed to different sections of the display. Kraxan military might on the front lines, Elunari communication systems for coordination, Zoran analytical abilities for tactical assessment, Voidwalker knowledge of space anomalies for strategic positioning, Naivari engineering for weapons development, Quillian stealth technology for reconnaissance. The chamber fell silent as they studied the display. "This plan," the Zoran first speaker began, "it disregards traditional command hierarchies." "Because traditional won't work against the harvesters," Winters insisted. "They expect us to fight as separate species. They don't expect unity." "Why should we trust human military strategy?" asked the Nivari representative. "Your species has barely mastered space travel." "Because fighting against superior forces is something humans have extensive experience with," Winters replied. "We've studied warfare for thousands of years. Sometimes the smaller force wins through superior strategy and unexpected cooperation. His communication panel chimed. It was Lieutenant Murphy again, but this time her image appeared on the main display for all to see. Major, I've established the command center as requested. Representatives from Earth's military divisions are standing by. Behind her, Winters could see a flurry of activity as humans worked at various stations. You've already begun implementing this plan? The Kraxan representative asked, surprised. Earth will stand either way, Winters replied. We hoped we wouldn't stand alone. A deep rumbling sound came from the Kraxan representative. What passed for laughter in their species. You have courage, human. The Kraxan respect courage. The massive reptilian being stepped forward. I am Admiral Kraz Tor of the Kraxan Defense Force. Our fleet commanders will want to review this joint strategy before committing. Of course, Winters said, nodding to Murphy. Lieutenant, please share our tactical assessments with the Admiral. Already done, sir, Murphy replied. I've taken the liberty of preparing species-specific briefings for each council member. The Elunari delegate's eyes widened. You've adapted the communication protocols to our neural patterns? That would take considerable understanding of our biology. Murphy nodded. We've been studying council species since first contact, Ambassador. Learning is another human specialty. Slowly, the atmosphere in the chamber began to change. The Voidwalker representative drifted closer to examine the tactical display. The Nivari began clicking rapidly to its aides, who hurried away with what sounded like engineering orders. This approach is unconventional, said the Zoran first speaker. But these are unconventional times. The Quillian representative approached Winters. Our stealth ships stand ready, Major. Where would you place them in this unified defense? Winters moved to the tactical display and began explaining the role each species would play. For the first time since arriving at the council, he wasn't being treated as an inferior. As he outlined the strategy, representatives from each race began offering suggestions, improving the plan with their specialized knowledge. Lieutenant Murphy watched from the display, a small smile on her face. It's working, she said quietly. It's just beginning, Winters replied. But yes, Lieutenant. For the first time since the Harvesters appeared, we're acting as one. He looked around at the council chamber, now transformed into an impromptu war room. The species that had mocked humanity's primitive ways were now listening intently to human battle strategies. They were learning what Earth had always known, that in unity there is strength, and the Harvesters were about to learn it too. The Kraxan flagship Claw of Justice cut through space like a massive predator. Inside its command center, Major Winters stood beside Admiral Kraz Tor, studying the tactical display that showed the positions of all Allied forces. 2 days had passed since the Council had agreed to implement what was now being called the Winter Protocol, a unified defense strategy against the Harvester threat. The Elunari homeworld will be their first major target, Winters said, pointing to the display. Their fleet is 6 hours from engagement. Admiral Kraz Tor's scaled face remained impassive, but Winters had learned to read the subtle shifts in the Kraxan's posture. The Admiral was concerned. The Elunari are not warriors, Kraz Tor rumbled. Their orbital defenses are designed for beauty as much as function. That's why we've positioned 3 Kraxan battle groups in this sector, Winters replied. And why the Quillian stealth ships are already in position to provide early warning. A communication alert sounded. Lieutenant Murphy's face appeared on the main screen. She was coordinating operations from the makeshift command center on the Bay Council Station. Major Admiral, the Zoran analytical team has detected a pattern in Harvester ship movements. They appear to operate in synchronized groups of 7 vessels. When one group engages, the others maintain precise support positions. Winters nodded. Like a networked intelligence. If we can disrupt that network. The Nivari engineers are already working on that possibility, Murphy continued. They've adapted some of Earth's old electronic warfare systems. Apparently, our primitive approach to signal disruption might work because it's so different from Council technology. A Kraxan officer approached and saluted. Admiral, our forward scouts report the Harvester fleet has increased speed. They will reach Elunari space in 4 hours, not 6. Krastor turned to Winters. They've detected our defensive buildup. Then we adjust, Winters said, modifying the tactical display. Signal all fleet commanders, we're implementing Contingency Plan Delta. As officers rushed to relay the orders, Admiral Krastor regarded Winters with what might have been respect. Your species adapts quickly to changing circumstances, the Admiral noted. Most council races would require extensive deliberation before altering an agreed-upon strategy. Humans have a saying, "No plan survives contact with the enemy," Winters replied with a grim smile. We learned to expect the unexpected. The massive Kraxan warship shuddered slightly as it accelerated to faster-than-light speed, leading the combined fleet toward the Elunari homeworld. Throughout the vessel, crews from different species worked side by side. Naivari engineers modifying Kraxan weapon systems, Zoran analysts processing intelligence data, Elunari communications specialists, coordinating the movements of hundreds of ships. 4 hours later, the first reports of combat reached the flagship. The harvester vessels had engaged the outer defenses of the Elunari system. Winters watched the tactical display as friendly markers began to vanish, each representing a ship and crew lost in battle. They're testing our defenses, he said, looking for weaknesses in our formation. Admiral Krastor nodded. A standard predator strategy. The Kraxan evolved from similar hunting patterns. Then let's show them something non-standard, Winters replied. He opened a channel to the combined fleet. All ships, this is Major Winters. Implement Crazy Ivan maneuver on my mark. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. This tactic was not in the briefing. Because I just thought of it, Winters explained. The harvesters expect logical, coordinated movements, so we're going to do something illogical. He gave the order, and across the battlefield, Allied ships suddenly broke formation. To an outside observer, or an enemy tactician, it would appear that the unified defense had collapsed into chaos. Ships moved in seemingly random directions, some appearing to retreat while others advanced without support. The harvester fleet paused its advance, as if confused by the sudden change in tactics. Now, Winters ordered, all ships, execute pincer, movement. The apparently chaotic Allied fleet suddenly converged on the harvester forces from multiple directions. The enemy, having adjusted its formation to pursue what it perceived as retreating ships, was caught off guard. They didn't expect that, Winters said with satisfaction as the tactical display showed several harvester vessels taking heavy damage. A feigned retreat, Admiral Krastor observed. An ancient strategy. Sometimes the old ways work best, Winters replied. For several hours the battle raged across the Elunari system. The unified fleet suffered losses but inflicted significant damage on the harvester forces. The winter protocol was working. Each species contributed its strengths, compensating for the weaknesses of others. Then a priority alert sounded. Lieutenant Murphy's face appeared on screen, her expression grave. Major, we have a new problem. A second harvester fleet has been detected on approach to Sol system. Earth is directly in their path. Winters felt his blood run cold. How long until they reach Earth? Less than 12 hours, sir. Earth defense forces are mobilizing, but she didn't need to finish the sentence. Earth's defenses were minimal compared to the Council races. They wouldn't stand a chance against a full harvester fleet. Admiral Krastor studied the updated tactical display. The nearest Council forces are 18 hours away. Earth will face this threat alone. Winters straightened his shoulders. Then we need to finish here quickly and move to Earth's defense. The Admiral was silent for a moment, his reptilian features unreadable. Then he turned to his executive officer. Signal all Kraxan battle groups. Divert 3rd and 4th fleets to the Sol system immediately. Winters stared at the Admiral in surprise. You're sending ships to defend Earth, even with the situation here still in flux? Krastor met his gaze. Your world is part of this alliance now, Major. The Teachers of Unity deserve unity in return. S.O. Elunari Communications Officer approached. Admiral, First Speaker Tazan of the Zoran requests to speak with you both. The first speaker's image appeared on the command display. Admiral Major Winters. The Council has been monitoring the battle. Your tactics have proven unexpectedly effective. Thank you, first speaker, Winters replied. But we have a new situation. Earth is under imminent threat. We are aware, the first speaker said. The Council has voted unanimously to extend full protection status to Earth, effective immediately. All available Council forces in proximity to the Sol system are being rerouted to assist. Winters could hardly believe what he was hearing. Full protection status, but Earth is only an observational member. Circumstances have changed, the first speaker replied. The unified strategy you proposed, this winter protocol, has demonstrated the value of human tactical thinking. The Council recognizes that your world must be preserved. As the first speaker continued outlining the Council's emergency measures, Winters exchanged a look with Lieutenant Murphy on the secondary screen. Her expression mirrored his own sense of vindication. The Council races that had once mocked humanity as primitive were now rushing to defend Earth. Not out of charity, but out of respect, and perhaps self-interest. They had recognized what humanity could contribute to their collective survival. Major, Admiral Krasator said quietly as the first speaker finished speaking, it appears your species' history of conflict has given you insights the Council races lack. We have lived in relative peace for so long that we forgot how to face an existential threat. Winters nodded. Each species has its strengths, Admiral. Humanity's just happens to be finding ways to work together when survival is on the line. The tactical display updated, showing harvester ships beginning to retreat from Elunari space. The first battle had been won. But the war, and the fight for Earth, was just beginning. The Harvester command ship loomed in the darkness of space like a massive black spider. Its surface rippled with strange energy patterns as it directed the assault on Earth. From the observation deck of the Kraxan flagship, Major Winters watched the battle unfold. Earth's orbital defenses glowed as they intercepted enemy weapons fire. The blue-green planet beneath them, his home, seemed small and vulnerable against the vastness of space. The defense is holding, Lieutenant Murphy reported, her image flickering on the communication screen. She was coordinating from a bunker beneath the North American continent. The Council ships arrived just in time. Around Earth, vessels from all 6 Council races fought alongside human ships. The Winter Protocol had transformed from a desperate strategy into a unified combat doctrine. Ships moved in coordinated patterns, covering each other's weaknesses and amplifying their strengths. Admiral Krasator joined Winters at the viewport. The Harvesters are adapting to our tactics. Their ships now move in unpredictable patterns, similar to your Crazy Ivan maneuver. They're learning, Winters agreed. Which means we need to end this soon. The Admiral nodded. The Zoran analysts have identified the command ship. They believe all Harvester vessels are linked through it, using some form of quantum communication. If we could disrupt that communication? Precisely. But the command ship is heavily protected. A direct assault would be costly. Winters studied the tactical display, watching the movements of the Harvester ships. An idea began to form in his mind. Risky, but potentially decisive. What if we don't attack it directly? He suggested. What if we get inside it instead? The Admiral's reptilian eyes narrowed. Infiltration? How would you penetrate their defenses? With a joint strike team. Winters turned to face the Admiral. Quillian stealth technology to approach undetected. Elunari communication experts to intercept their signals. Naivari engineers to disrupt their systems. Voidwalker knowledge to navigate their technology. Kraxan warriors for protection. And humans for improvisation. Admiral Krasator was silent for a moment, considering the plan. Finally, he nodded. I will lead the Kraxan warriors myself. And I'll lead the human team, Winters replied. Sir, Murphy protested from the screen. With respect, you're our diplomatic representative, not a commando. I was a soldier before I was a diplomat, Lieutenant, Winters reminded her. And I need someone I trust coordinating from the outside. He looked at her meaningfully. That's you. 3 hours later, a modified Quillian stealth vessel approached the massive Harvester command ship. Inside, Representatives from all council races plus a small team of human special forces made final preparations. The ship's cloaking technology rendered it virtually invisible to harvester sensors. Their hull appears to be organic in nature, reported the Zoran scientist studying sensor readings. It reconfigures itself continuously, which means any breach will seal itself quickly, added the Nivari engineer. We must move fast once inside. The Quillian pilot guided their vessel toward a section of the harvester ship that appeared to be an intake valve of some kind. This opening cycles every 7.3 minutes. We will have approximately 20 seconds to enter. And if we miss that window? Asked one of the human soldiers. Then we become part of the hull, the Quillian replied calmly. Winters checked his equipment one last time. Unlike the advanced weapons carried by the council representatives, his gear was noticeably simpler, a standard pulse rifle, explosive charges, and a tactical knife. The Kraxan warriors had eyed his equipment with skepticism. Your weapons seem inadequate, Admiral Krastor commented. Sometimes simple is better, Winters replied. Less to go wrong. The Quillian vessel slipped through the opening in the harvester hull with seconds to spare. They found themselves in a cavernous space filled with pulsing organic machinery. The interior was hot and humid, with a faint acidic smell that penetrated even their sealed suits. This way, directed the Voidwalker representative, its dark energy, form flowing ahead of the group. The command center should be at the core. They moved through the alien vessel like ghosts, avoiding contact with the few harvester entities they encountered. The Quillian stealth technology concealed them from most sensors, while the Illuminari communications expert jammed any nearby detection systems. After nearly an hour of careful progress, they reached what appeared to be the central hub of the massive ship. Transparent tubes filled with glowing fluid connected to a pulsing central mass. The quantum communication nexus, whispered the Zoran scientist. It links all harvester vessels. The Nivari engineer immediately began analyzing the system. Complex, but fundamentally similar to neural networks. If we overload the main junction, it should temporarily disable their coordination. How long will that take? Winters asked. Approximately 30 minutes to reconfigure our equipment. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the chamber. Red light bathed the strike team as hidden panels opened in the walls, revealing dozens of harvester entities. We've been detected, Admiral Krastor announced, readying his energy weapon. Take defensive positions. The strike team formed a protective circle around the Nivari engineer as harvester entities closed in from all sides. The Kraxan warriors fired precision energy blasts, while the Voidwalker created distortions in space that confused the advancing enemies. Lieutenant Murphy's voice came through Winters' communicator. Major, what's happening? Your life signs are spiking. We're under attack, Winters replied, firing his pulse rifle at an approaching harvester. The engineer needs 30 minutes to rig the system for overload. You don't have 30 minutes, Murphy responded urgently. Sensors show harvester reinforcements converging on your position. You have 10 minutes at most before you're overwhelmed. Winters looked around at the embattled strike team. Despite their advanced technology and combined skills, they were slowly being pushed back by the sheer number of harvesters. The Nivari engineer worked frantically on the communication nexus, but progress was too slow. A solution formed in Winters' mind. Not elegant, not advanced, but possibly effective. Lieutenant, I need you to send the schematics for an electromagnetic pulse device to my datapad. The most basic version possible. Sir? Murphy sounded confused. Trust me, Lieutenant. Sometimes primitive is exactly what we need. The schematics arrived seconds later. Winters turned to the Quillian team member. I need your stealth field generator. That would reveal our position to all sensors, the Quillian protested. We're already revealed, Winters pointed out. Understanding dawned on the Nivari engineer's face as Winters explained his idea. It might work, but it would be a one-way mission. The resulting overload would destroy this entire section of the ship. Admiral, Krastor fought his way to Winters' side. What is your plan, human? We repurposed the Quillian stealth technology and the Nivari power cells to create an unexpected overload in the harvester communication hub. And the resulting explosion will disable the entire Harvester fleet, temporarily. The Admiral nodded grimly. Enough time for our ships to strike decisively. Exactly. Working together amid the chaos of battle, Winters and the Naivari engineer quickly modified the equipment. The Kraxon warriors and other team members held the Harvesters at bay with increasing difficulty. It's ready, the engineer announced finally. But someone must activate it manually. The trigger mechanism is unstable. Winters reached for the device. I'll do it. The rest of you get back to the ship. Admiral Krastor caught his arm. No, Major. Your world needs you to lead the Alliance after this battle. I will stay. Before Winters could protest, Lieutenant Murphy's voice cut through on the communicator. Major, I've analyzed the schematics. We can rig a remote detonator using the Elunari communication equipment. Everyone can escape. Working quickly, they modified the device according to Murphy's instructions. The strike team began a fighting retreat back toward their vessel, leaving the improvised weapon attached to the communication nexus. We're clear, Winters reported as the last team member boarded the Quillian ship. Detonation in 3, 2, 1. The explosion was invisible from outside, but its effects were immediately apparent. Throughout the Earth battlefield, Harvester ships suddenly stopped in place, their coordinated attack patterns dissolving into confusion. All Allied ships, this is Lieutenant Murphy. The Harvesters have lost central coordination. Strike now. The combined fleet surged forward, targeting the suddenly vulnerable enemy vessels. Without their networked intelligence, the Harvesters could not adapt to the multi-species attack. 1 month later, Major Samuel Winters stood before the full Galactic Council. The chamber, once a place of humiliation for him, now felt different. Representatives from all council races watched with newfound respect as First Speaker Tazan addressed him. Major Winters, the Council has unanimously voted to upgrade Earth status to full membership, effective immediately. Furthermore, the First Speaker continued, the Council proposes the establishment of a permanent unified defense force built on the principles of the Winter Protocol. We would ask Earth to take a leading role in this new institution. As the session concluded, Winters received a message on his datapad. It was from Lieutenant Murphy. Children on multiple worlds are playing a new game in schoolyards across council space they call